Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a fantastic week out there so far as we're a little bit closer to that weekend. Got a couple things to speak on for today's forecast. We'll speak on some rain that's falling across areas of the Ohio Valley this morning. We'll get some thunderstorms later on this afternoon to this evening, even into the overnight hours for areas of the eastern U.S. In fact, a pretty large area has a chance to see some thunderstorms over the next 24 hours. We'll speak on that. A little bit of winter weather, a touch of it, but not a big deal. I think most of it will fall tomorrow, but even for tomorrow, winter weather really won't be a big topic weather-wise across the lower 48. We'll speak on everybody else. After that, we will speak on a system that I am watching as we get into this weekend. That could bring some snow. In fact, it most likely will across areas and maybe the Ohio Valley, and then all the way down to the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. Maybe some snow even all the way down to like Tennessee and North Carolina, really the higher elevations. Could some of this break containment get east of the mountains, even outside of the mountainous regions? It's very possible. We'll speak more on that tonight, and we will have a video tonight. After we speak on that, we'll give you some updated information of a storm system we are watching next week as confidence is steadily increasing that it's going to happen. And models have actually came together a little bit more, especially overnight last night on the idea of the placement of this trough ejection and the low pressure associated with. It's going to bring severe weather most likely and probably a winter weather side of this. So we're going to get more and more detailed on it. We're going to get pretty detailed in this video, but stay tuned for tonight. I know I've left you guys hanging with the evening video. It's just been taking a little bit of a break, guys. But stay tuned for tonight. We'll get even more detailed, but we'll get pretty detailed in this video too. Take advantage of those timestamps. They're there to help you guys. And with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It's an important part of this channel. We look out for one another. We pray for one another. And definitely put those in the comments. If it's unspoken, put that. Please do, guys. You know, people are going to pray for you here. I'm going to pray for you, and we're all looking out for you. So let's get rocking and rolling here. So we got some moisture across the Ohio Valley, southern sections of the Great Lakes region. Some moisture up here in Canada too. Everybody is warmer than average just about across the lower 48. I'm sure there's a couple areas that's not. But man, I mean, I can't think of the city name or town name in Texas, almost hit 99 degrees yesterday. It's unreal. It's wild. But here we are. We will get some thunderstorms that gets going south of all this precipitation in the Ohio Valley areas of the Midwest later on today. Nothing really in the form of thunderstorms out there this morning. There is some heavier rain, maybe some rumbles of thunder in like Indiana, maybe even West Virginia. You guys will have to let me know. But later on today, we will get some widespread thunderstorms across Kentucky, southern sections of Indiana and Ohio, down to Tennessee, all the way down into northern Alabama, maybe northern Mississippi, North Georgia, into the overnight hours. The rest of the country, central U.S., pretty quiet. I mean, there is some snow flying around with some gusty winds in southeast Wyoming and the northern ranges of Colorado. A little bit of moisture in the Pacific Northwest. All in all, outside of that, most of the lower 48 is pretty quiet this morning. Storm Prediction Center, as of now, just a very large general risk. That means we got a chance of some storms today. There's no marginal risk, which is that level 1 out of 5. So, you know, there's no risk of severe weather for today. None at all, but that could change in the later outlooks. They might introduce a marginal risk somewhere in here. It's very possible, and it would most likely probably be for some hail, maybe some gusty winds. We'll see what happens, though. The risk of flash flooding, just a marginal risk, at least a 5% chance of flash flood guidance being met. I don't see flooding being a big deal, though, in the Ohio Valley today, but definitely be aware if your county goes under a flash flood warning or area. Watches, warnings, advisories. I mean, it really just goes to show you it's pretty quiet out there this morning. We got some high wind warnings up in Montana, some lingering winter weather advisories up in Colorado and Wyoming, even a winter storm warning up for Colorado. Still got a few red flag warnings up down here kind of in the southwestern sections of Texas. Some fog you got going on here in the valleys of California. But man, there is no alerts, really. I think there's some wind advisories right here in the Smokies of Tennessee. But there's really no alerts in the central and eastern U.S. pretty much. So let's talk about the southeast first. This morning, not a whole lot going on besides the rain I just spoke on in the Ohio Valley. As we get going later on this afternoon, we'll get some, thunder showers, I guess you would say, some heavier rains, some thunderstorms to get going. kind of along the border of Indiana and Kentucky. They will start to dive in general, pretty much southeast. It's getting into this evening. And we even got some thunderstorms developing down here in kind of like western Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and even central Arkansas. These storms could get going a little bit more as we're getting to right around when the sun is setting, around 7, 8 p.m. in northern Mississippi. Got some storms firing up in the northern half of Alabama. We're going to just switch it to this, guys. We're going to take it through because I don't want to ignore you guys. I think all this weather will clear out, get away from Arkansas by the time we get into the overnight hours. But I don't want to ignore Virginia either. Some showers are up here, going to be possible. Most likely will swing through the state, especially throughout the overnight hours. But let's go on and zoom into this area right here. Don't be surprised one bit if anywhere in Kentucky, Tennessee today, get some small hail with some of these storms. Even though, we don't have a risk of severe weather, that doesn't mean there's not a chance of it. So as we get going on later today, this is around midday, getting into the early afternoon hours, there's that line of storms affecting around the Frankfort area, starting to move into Lexington, starting to move through Louisville later on this afternoon. And then by the time we start to get to around 6, 7, 8 p.m., we got a lot of heavy rain throughout Kentucky. Rain's moving kind of out of southern Ohio into West Virginia. And then you see these darker reds and oranges down here. This could be in the form of some storms, around Nashville points north. 7, 8 p.m., some storms could be moving in. Some rain will start to move into the higher elevations of the southern Alps. And then look at this line of storms trying to get going. You see these darker reds. And anytime you start to see them purples here on Weather Bell, that means you probably run the risk of some hail. All right. Just from my experiences with seeing the HRRR model on this site. But you keep going here. You're starting to get into later this evening. And then this line of storms is moving over the Cumberland Plateau. You got some storminess down here south of Huntsville, moving through northern Alabama. It's definitely going to be a storm. If you like a rainy night, kind of a low rumble of thunder in the overnight hours when you're sleeping, kind of wakes you up and it soothes you. Not everybody. It's kind of the complete opposite for some people. But if you're into that kind of stuff, this might be that night for you here in the Mid-South for sure. As we're getting into about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, this begins to all shift southeast, get east of the mountains, southeast of the Appalachian Mountains, and could wake up to some storms ongoing in areas of like Augusta, maybe to Columbia, maybe to Charlotte. Or this just could be in the form of some heavy rain, and that's most likely what it will be. Maybe some heavy rain with some rumbles of thunder. I don't think we're going to have an all-out thunderstorm of lightning and thunder like you see like in the summertime. But definitely going to get some weather that's going to swing through this area throughout the evening, overnight hours, all the way into tomorrow morning. Rainfall between now and tomorrow morning, certain areas in Kentucky could see an inch of rain. Could, but I think a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain is the common deal here in central Kentucky. You get down to Tennessee, it lessens up somewhat, but still a 1/4 inch to a half inch is a good bet. Northern Alabama, a good, and, if we go on and just take it all the way out, this is all the way out to Friday evening, between now and the next 36 hours, a good 1/4 inch to a half inch from, Columbia to Augusta. I think if you get in the higher elevations of North Carolina and Tennessee, you could get a half an inch to an inch of rain. So definitely some wet times coming up. Head on up to the northeast. We're dealing with that rain across the Ohio Valley right now. We are getting into about midday. We're going to be dealing with just rain in the southern tier, the Finger Lakes region of New York. It's too warm for snow, which, is kind of uncommon for late February, but we are pretty much away from the heart of winter now. But we will continue to get these rounds of heavy rain across the Ohio Valley into western areas of Pennsylvania. Even could get some thunderstorms into West Virginia. It's very possible. Ohio also. And then we start to get into later on this afternoon, really this evening, we continue to get some rain that moves into Pennsylvania, moves throughout West Virginia. We're getting some rain moving to D.C., Baltimore, even into Philadelphia, I think, as we're getting into this evening. And, where you see the yellows and oranges, that's some heavier rain. So this is all rain in this case. I mean, we could get some mixing in the higher elevations, like over 4,000 feet up in West Virginia, very possible. But this is all just light to moderate rain as we're getting into the overnight hours. In the Berkshires, maybe the Adirondacks, Green and White Mountains, the higher elevations of the interior Northeast, even like the Catskills, could mix with a little bit of snow, a little bit of wet snow. And then as we're waking up tomorrow morning, precipitation becomes a little bit more widespread up here, and we'll get a light to moderate, I would say a light snow event up here in Vermont, New Hampshire, and areas of the Adirondacks, all the way up into Maine. And we'll continue to deal with just a rain-snow mix kind of throughout Maine as we are getting into tomorrow evening. I think it'll head off, and then we'll start to get some cold air that moves in behind this system. Rainfall between now and tomorrow evening, some of this will fall in the form of snow, really up here only. But you can get a solid inch and a quarter in northern West Virginia, southwest, and even just western areas of Pennsylvania and areas of eastern Ohio could get over an inch of rain. Like Pittsburgh, you get over an inch of rain between now and the next 36 hours or so. So how much snow with this? We take a look at that. Between now, let's take it all the way out to Saturday morning. An inch or two, maybe 3 inches of wet snow is possible, depending on your elevation and your location in the interior northeast. So let's go out to the south central U.S. We got that developing low right here. This is helping, this low that you see right here, this is helping to bring warm, moist air into kind of the Mississippi Valley region, as you got southerlies on this side of the low right in here. But this low will continue to move on off, bring the development of thunderstorms into the Ohio Valley in the Mid-South. After that kind of clears off, and we could get them thunder showers, thunderstorms are very possible in central Arkansas and eastern Arkansas today. Some shower activity down here in the Bayou, Louisiana. We get into this evening, though, most of everybody in the south central U.S. is pretty quiet. We're going to continue to have those solid winds in southwest and western areas of Texas. I don't think it'll be comparable to yesterday, but definitely be aware of some windy conditions out here in the kind of the deep in areas in Texas, like in the southwestern sections of the state. Up here in the north central U.S., outside of the rain you're going to deal with between now and this afternoon in areas of like southern Michigan, and then we're going to get some thunderstorms get going. Also, kind of south of Indianapolis, you see these areas down here, these could produce some small hail. It's very possible, especially as we're getting into this afternoon. Some more thunderstorms will try to develop, even getting into areas of Ohio. Definitely be aware of these storms. It's not going to be storms that produce tornadoes or anything, but don't be surprised if you're driving along kind of down here in Indiana and Ohio, and all of a sudden, clouds darken, the sky darkens, and all of a sudden you get hit by one of those hailstorms that just produce a lot of hail. It's very possible, even down here in the southern areas of Illinois. But this turns into a more linear look and then dives down to Kentucky, and then we've already talked about that. A little bit of cold air comes in back behind this, and then maybe a slither of snow up here near International Falls in northern Minnesota. Then some snow, light snow, could probably get going in the UP of Michigan, depending on where you are later on into the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. And then we're going to wake up with some scattered light snow and snow flurries kind of around the Great Lakes and upper Midwest region. I think that's very possible. So out west, it's a pretty quiet day. Enjoy the nice quiet weather, and we'll continue to have some snow that will linger around through this morning into early this afternoon in areas of southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. And then it could get going again later on this evening, but not a big deal really at all. Looks like you're about to get a system that's going to move into the western U.S., but it doesn't do it. And then we get into the overnight hours, getting all the way into tomorrow morning. And it's a pretty quiet weather day out west. Enjoy the quietness, as it was, you started off the week quite active out here. So eastern U.S., a chilly day in the northeast, 30s. Some areas will be below freezing, but some of that rain that's going to move into like the southern tier and Finger Lakes areas of New York is going to be quite chilly. I'm talking about raining in like the 30s and 40s, kind of a raw day. You're going to almost kind of want it to snow. You'd rather have the snow rather than that really cold, damp rain, but it's definitely going to be around in the Ohio Valley and then areas of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. This will be a chilly, chilly rain. You get away from that rain up here in the Ohio Valley, down here to the southeast. A nice day in the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, 60s and 70s. Very warm into Texas. Well above average temperatures in Arkansas, Louisiana, 70s and 80s. Getting all the way up into the 60s, all the way up into areas of like southern Wisconsin, certainly in Iowa. So well above average temperature-wise. It's going to be very warm. Everybody's above average pretty much out here. There might be some areas that are a little bit below average or around average, but in general, the common theme is above average temperatures. So, all right, let's continue to move forward. I want to watch tomorrow. This is for tomorrow. You see this light green. There's a general risk of thunderstorms. Not a big deal. I know you're thinking like, man, this ain't a big deal at all. But I want to watch to see if we get an upgrade to a marginal risk somewhere in this area tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an upgrade to a marginal risk today in areas of the Ohio Valley sometime in the next outlook or two. But the reason I'm watching this is because this is starting off tomorrow morning in the Carolinas. Okay, all this energy will swing through. You'll kind of get an opening, right? This is around lunchtime, 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Look at these big thunderstorms developing north of Columbia, Charlotte right in here, kind of around the Union County area. We don't know if this is the exact timing or the exact place where the storm is going to develop, but I think the NAM shows a similar thing. It's just a little off with the timing and the placement of the storms, where we can't expect, these short-range models to nail exactly where these storms are going to be. Sometimes they do. But we continue to move forward. We're getting into about 1, 2, 3 p.m. Look at these storms. To me, that has a hailstorm written all over it. So I want to, be aware tomorrow in South Carolina, even in North Carolina, heck, even all the way down to Georgia. But we could have some ingredients, and the hodographs look almost like they look flat. They look kind of strung out. Typically when we have those hodographs that almost look flat, and I'll kind of show you a better example of that in the future. Flattened out, that typically is a hail look with this. Okay, H-A-I-L, not H-E-L-L. We've already talked about that and established that I say hail and hail the same exact way. So, but definitely be aware of this. Be aware of this tomorrow. We'll speak more on this maybe in tonight's video. But we could have some thunderstorms capable of producing some hail tomorrow. And it's going to be kind of those cooler thunderstorms too. It's not going to be those thunderstorms you get in the 70s and 80s. So there could be some pretty structure to these storms too. I'm going to be working tomorrow, but who knows if the timing's right. Maybe I'll go chasing up the road or something. But just definitely watch for these storms throughout the entire state of South Carolina and then the sandhills of North Carolina. After that, we'll watch as we are getting past our Friday into this weekend. We'll see this disturbance right here. This could bring a little snow to areas in the Midwest, maybe sections of the Ohio Valley. You see the darker blues getting the Saturday morning. This is just kind of an upper disturbance flying around the base of this trough. Maybe some snow possible in northern Kentucky as we're waking up Saturday morning. And then this dives down into the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. I want to say this, we're getting into the later portion of winter now. And of course, we can get some crazy stuff happen in March. We already know that. But, if you really want to see some snow, want to bring the kids up to see some snow, or you just want to, I think this weekend might be a good weekend to do it. I would get on up there in elevation, but we could get a solid, what we call a northwest flow snow event in the higher elevations of like Virginia and especially North Carolina and Tennessee. Now, you're going to have to get higher up in elevation than like Gatlinburg or Asheville. You're going to have to get on up there. You're going to have to find one of those little small towns up in the higher elevations. But, if you do want to see some snow getting into Saturday afternoon, it's very possible we're going to have some snow flying around the mountains, and it could fall pretty heavily too. And if you notice, all this rain, that's not a lot, I say all of it, but you see this rain outside the mountains breaking containment. I wouldn't be surprised one bit as we're getting into Saturday evening, we get some flakes mixing in with some of this lingering rain east of the Carolinas. Could get some sleet mixed in, and then this kind of peters out and heads on off, and it's about done as we get into Sunday morning. We're done with it, and then that's all she wrote. Okay, and we can actually see this in the NAM as this precipitation kind of dives in. There's that snow flying around in northern and then eastern Kentucky, even southern sections of West Virginia could get a quick inch or so. And then we'll get some snow probably into the Cumberland Plateau from this. You guys always are favoring these kind of setups. And then we're getting into about midday Saturday, and the snow's flying around the high country of Tennessee and North Carolina. Even some snow up here in the higher elevations of southwestern Virginia. And this is as far out as the NAM goes, but we certainly could get some heavier bursts of snow in this setup. Roan Mountain, you're going to have to drive and get on up there in elevation most likely. But we'll see what happens. But certainly could be a snowy weekend in the mountains if you get 3,000-4,000 feet up. Might not have to get quite that high, but we'll see. National Weather Service between now and Sunday morning indicating a couple inches of snow in the Smokies around the Roan Mountain area also. I don't know if I said area 4 or 5 times just then. But we're probably going to get a dusting. Even areas a little bit kind of further south could even get a little snow that sneaks into like the Maggie Valley area. I don't know what's up with this. It popped up on my screen when I was pulling up all these graphics. It's kind of odd, but it looks like the National Weather Service in Raleigh is going for a dusting of snow. I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's something they're buying, but we'll talk more on that if that's something that it's not a glitch in this evening's video. I don't know if we're going to get a dusting of snow. I don't know what's going on with this. So we'll speak on more of this when we get into this evening's video. All right, so starting off next Monday morning, February the 26th, the last Monday of February. Whole entire country looks pretty quiet, right? But we see a lot of action starting to move into the Pacific Northwest out of Canada. This is our next big system. It's associated with a trough of low pressure. It's going to dive down to the western U.S. we're probably going to have multiple surface lows that flies around the base of this and kind of just rounds of precipitation. And where the precipitation is on the cold side, you're probably going to get snow. Warmer side could be severe weather. I'm not talking about severe weather in the Rockies. I'm just saying as this evolves eastward. So we're getting into Tuesday morning. It looks like we have a lot of snow flying around across areas of the Rockies. And the snow levels could be pretty low. I want to watch areas like Denver, maybe Salt Lake City. I mean, these areas could get some snow in something like this. Typically those areas, I'm not saying don't see snow, but in your average kind of event that kind of sweeps across the Rockies, a lot of times, you guys kind of sit at rain or really nothing at all, and the mountains kind of squeeze out all the snow. This could be different in this situation. You see the bars kind of tightening up here in the blue right up here. That means we got some cold air diving down into the northern plains. We continue to move this into Tuesday afternoon, and this isn't going to be the exact evolution of this, but we're starting to get a little bit closer. You notice you got a low that's just flowing across the northern section of the lower 48, 988 millibar low. It's about to move out of Minnesota into Canada, and we got some snow on the cold side that's moving into Canada. And then we got another low right in here. And, the lows are going to be everywhere. We're still a little bit far out. Has another low right here, either the same low. Just think of this as a low pressure here. But you got a 984 millibar low right here around kind of the western edge of Lake Superior. This is bringing a lot of snow up into Canada and just rain for now into the Great Lakes region. Then we got another low pressure down here. And if you notice, this is rain, snow. This is cold air diving in behind this trough with associated cold front. And this is going to continue. Cold air continues to dive down to the central U.S. It's already quite chilly across the western U.S. And here comes our first low pressure. Okay, this is likely bringing some sort of form of maybe severe weather right in here. Even though you don't see really any precipitation, we're not in range of the short range models. We're not even close. But this low is not only bringing precipitation to the south, it's bringing precipitation to the north too. Precipitation to the south could be in the form of not only rain but some strong to severe storms. This is also helping to bring up southerly winds, which is bringing up that moist air that is an ingredient for severe weather. But check out the snow breaking out on the cold side that's across the middle of the country. Winter's definitely not over. Then this low continues to somewhat deepen. Then we could get a snow event across the upper Midwest, maybe Minneapolis, maybe the Great Lakes region, maybe Chicago. It just depends on where the placement of this low is going to be. And this 986 millibar low deepens to a 981. We don't know how strong it's going to be. But check it out. You got rain crashing to snow in Chicago, all of Wisconsin. It's been very, very warm in these areas of the country over the last few weeks. Winter's not over until it's over. So we're getting into Wednesday evening, the 28th, and then we continue, and then we're going to have this system that's going to continue to kind of dive down to the eastern U.S. We got to see what this looks like, but with a shot of cold air coming in behind it. So I know that's kind of everywhere, guys, but if you look at the GFS, it kind of evolves the same way, right? Here it comes, all this energy diving out west, a lot of higher elevation snow, maybe lower elevation snow too, depending on your location. And then here comes the trough, the initial cold front that digs down. Here comes the first low, the surface low that kind of ejects, right? This kind of jumps around. We don't know the exact placement of it, but here comes a 991 low that kind of rides somewhere in Tuesday afternoon to the northern plains and to the upper Midwest. And then here comes another surface low that's ejecting outside the Rockies. Cold air crashing down. Same time, you got two lows. You got this low up here in Canada, and you got this one too. So you could have 2 to 3 low pressures. I think we'll at least have 2. And then here comes the next one. As we're getting into Wednesday on the GFS, snow on the cold side, rain on the warm side with the potential for severe storms. And then we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. We got to watch down here. You see this green area? This could be strong to severe storms Wednesday afternoon. Then look at the snowstorm for areas like Minneapolis, just Minnesota, somewhere up here, right? And then we kind of keep this going. This kind of gets trapped, and then we just get kind of a strung out system that rides into the eastern U.S. We got to figure out the details of this, but I think the GFS and the Euro evolves kind of the same. You get a trough that drops down, multiple surface lows that kind of eject off the base of this trough, and we get a lot of weather. Okay, and really what we look at here is the snow signal as far as the winter weather side of this. All right, and here comes that huge signal. This is in 2-day periods, 48-hour periods. So snow in a 48-hour period. So if you look out here in the beginning of next week, a lot of snow, big snow signal out west, a lot of higher elevation snow, Rockies, Cascades. Yeah, Sierra Nevada, definitely a lot. We could get some snow into Denver also, but what I want you to notice here is once this gets past the higher elevations of the western U.S., we now have a little bit of a higher signal compared to the last couple videos right here across the Great Plains and Northern Plains, and also just the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Okay, it's starting to grow right through like Minneapolis. It's not a solid signal yet, but there is obviously a signal for something here. Okay, and it really gets going here in the upper Great Lakes region. And then there it goes. And then we're already watching another system. There's no point in talking about this much, but there's another system that kind of introduces March that we need to watch also. So that's the signal for snow, right? But this is the newest news that we're waking up to. The Storm Prediction Center has now dropped 2 15% risk. One for Tuesday of next week. Basically, it's a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather at day 6. It's a pretty large area from Chicago almost all the way down to Dallas. This includes Little Rock, St. Louis, Springfield, Illinois, Peoria, all the way down to Tulsa, almost down to Oklahoma City. So I think this is going to shrink. This will either increase or decrease. This could broaden, but they've just introduced a huge area where the criteria of severe weather could be met right in here. So that's the only way you look at this right here, honestly. And then when you look at day 7, and there's even a larger area as we get into portions of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South, the Mississippi Valley, into the Deep South. Okay, this is for our Wednesday, a 15% risk of severe weather. We don't know what it is. We don't know. If you ask me the question, Mitch, are we going to get damaging winds, tornadoes? We don't know that yet. We have to remember, I keep saying this, we have to figure out the best overlapping of ingredients. And right now, they know that ingredients are going to be in place. That's why the area is so broad. Things will get fine-tuned as we get closer. So, talking about those ingredients, okay? 2 things we look at, still at this range. And we're going to be looking at this through the weekend until we get a little bit closer. You look at kinematics. So, these are winds at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. All right? Kind of more vibrant colors. I don't even know if you would call this vibrant. I always use that term. But, 80 knots mid-level jet right in here going through like New Mexico and the south central U.S. So, we'll start this off for Monday evening. I don't think we'll have much in the way of severe weather Monday evening. Pivotal weather is always so finicky. But we start off Tuesday morning. You're already getting winds, a favorable wind pattern aloft that's getting going across the south central U.S. You already got 60 to 70 knot mid-level jets. But the full trough is now just diving really into the western U.S. And as it does, and we're getting into like Tuesday afternoon at this point, if this thing would get in motion, man, pivotal weather. I've said this many times, pivotal weather is the best. It's probably the cheapest site out there, and it's the best for severe weather, but man, it is very finicky sometimes. But the trough is moving into the western U.S., and check out this belt of winds aloft. So these are winds 18,000 feet above our heads as we sit at the surface. So this is an ingredient called kinematics. Okay, this is the favorable winds you need for severe weather. This tells me that we're going to have a lot of lift for thunderstorms. That doesn't mean we'll get it, but we're going to have lift for thunderstorms, and then we're going to have wind energy for thunderstorms. So could be wind energy for damaging winds, and depending how much turning with height as you climb up into the atmosphere there is, being that spin, that will tell you if we're going to have some sort of a tornado threat. And I think we need to get a little bit closer to this before we kind of find that out. Okay, but we start to move. Oh man, we start to move into our Wednesday. Here we go, Wednesday morning, and it really does nothing but increase. This thing begins to strengthen, and all of a sudden, moving right through Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, we got a lot of favorable winds, and then we're starting to get into Wednesday afternoon, and then look at this area of 100 to 120 knot mid-level jet rolling right through the Ohio Valley, and this is really getting going. So it's just things we got to watch. And the next thing you look for is dew points, and we'll kind of zoom through this a lot quicker here. Dew points as we're getting into Tuesday morning, certainly supportive of severe weather. You got this huge, broad, moist field climbing all the way up into the Great Lakes region. Dew points are climbing into the 60s into the south central U.S. Dew points rise all the way into the 60s, all the way up into the Ohio Valley as you're getting into Wednesday. So dew points in the 50s and 60s, especially the 60s, are supportive of severe weather. But if you notice, it's very broad. Very, very broad, guys. So we just got to figure out what the best overlapping is, and then that's when we can really start to zoom in on who's going to have the best shot of severe weather. So that's all I got, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless everyone.